Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 189 of the Civil Gore podcast. I'm your host, Tim, and I just realized I said that like an auctioneer. Hey there, everybody.
I know, yeah.
Episode 189.
We got a Tim. We got 189 here. We got Tim. Yeah, we got a co-host, Brian. No, okay. Yes, this is Brian, and we have a show for you. This is a show that I did not expect this show to, we didn't even know what movie we were doing quite yet. And then we were offered a interview of all interviews here. We got this is Civil Gore history here. We got a record number. We have 6 people.
The whole cast, pretty much.
Yeah, the whole cast of 616 WILFORD Lane, the new movie that, remember I mentioned it last week's episode, how much I liked it.
Right.
And now we're going to make it our feature thing. And we have a cast, and listen to this then. We got writers and directors, Mark Allen and Dante Yore. Mark, if you remember, came on when Fear Farm came along with Howard Bird when Fear Farm came out. And Dante Yore, he directed Fear Farm. We didn't have him on that time, but he's on this time. We have John Littlefield, of course, who we think is one of the coolest dudes ever. He played Herschel Walker in Fear Farm, and he plays the starring role in this movie. We got 2 newcomers here, I think, that are going to be big stars in the horror world here, Alison Gorski and Jessica Chancellor. And, are you ready for this? Mr. Jarek Roberts, who played a small but amazing role in this film, joined us as well.
He's done a few things. Go check out his IMDb. He's done a few things.
Yeah, just prepare for your finger to have to be iced after scrolling if you're doing it on an iPhone, because to scroll through to see all his credits, you are going for a while. So, but he was always someone who Tim and I were big fans of, and he was gracious enough to come on as well in there. So what an interview we have for you coming up. This was one of the most fun interviews we did, I think. Just a great group, such a fun film to talk about. And so that's coming up in a little bit when we also talk about the film. That's going to be our main film for today.
All right, awesome. Well, let's get right into it. This is our first chop. All right, Brian, well, I didn't watch a whole lot this week. I've been actually catching up on Cobra Kai, which is fantastic.
Don't you love that show, though? I know it's not horror, but how great is that show?
Yeah, I for some reason, I had started watching season 3, and then I got sidetracked, and then I totally forgot about it because it wasn't popping up in my Netflix list. And then finally I was like, holy crap, I never finished Cobra Kai. So I went back and started again, and it's just phenomenal. It just gets better and better every season.
It does. And you know what's so good about it is it takes you, it knows how to pull those nostalgia strings, okay? But it also gives you a current story that is engaging as well.
Yeah. So and it's never self-parody, ever.
Never. And it's so well done. It's like there's some, I remember one of my favorite sequences, and this was season 1, I think. We'll keep this brief because we have so much to talk about on this show with the interview and the movie and stuff. But I think one of the coolest scenes was in season 1 when they had that, when Johnny and Daniel were getting into one of those fights, and they both did the standoff, and the music hit like da, 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 and I'm like, oh my god! I said, this brings me right back to the original, and it's just the story is so good, the characters are so great, and I love how they bring back the old characters in such a perfect way, and just introduce new ones that are so great. Oh my god! I can't wait for season 4, which I think is coming by the end of the year. They said they're churning these out fast. I tell you, even in the pandemic, they managed to get season 3 out and season 4 being filmed. So.
Yeah, and such a great little binge-worthy show because every episode's only less than 30 minutes, so you could just kind of breeze right through them.
I watched season 3 in one shot. I just sat there and I'm watching it all. As soon as it came, day 1 it hit, I sat there and watched the whole thing.
That's awesome. But I did watch one. I actually watched this one tonight, Brian. I watched this one with Joshua, the original Piranha.
Oh, wow.
The Joe Dante vehicle. I'd totally forgotten he directed this.
Yeah.
And but you know what? When I have not seen this movie since I was a little kid, and I remember it terrifying me as a little kid. I remembered nothing about it, and so I was sitting there watching it, and I was really pleasantly surprised how much humor is in the film. there's a lot of funny moments in it.
Not as much as the remakes, but yeah.
Not as much as the remakes, but the original.
Don't show that one to Joshua. I don't know if he'd be good with the remakes.
No, that one's not. He's too young for that one for sure. In fact, when I first told Olivia I was showing him Piranha, Olivia freaked out, and I was like, no, not the remake, not the original, which is fairly tame. There's a brief bit of nudity at the very front, but otherwise it's perfectly tame. But I was pleasantly surprised at how much humor was in the movie. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It's kind of got a little bit of that Joe Dante charm to it, and I really enjoyed it. It's not scary at all. I mean, it's kind of silly. I knew that even as a kid growing up that this was kind of silly, but it still instilled in me the fear of piranhas, and I think most people think of piranhas as these things that are just going to like chew your leg to the bone as soon as you step in the water, which is not actually accurate. But it was a fun time. I'm really enjoying going back and watching these movies that I only watched as a kid and don't remember too much about, and then going back and revisiting them as an adult. It's a lot of fun. Yeah,
and remember how you said alligator was your like fear of it? To me, water I was mostly afraid of piranha when I was a kid. Like, cause I think because I guess. Wasn't it, I mean, maybe I'm imagining this or someone like teased me, but I remember that someone saying you could get them at the pet store, so I was always afraid to look at the fish tanks at the pet store.
Yeah. You used to could. You could.
Right, you could. Okay, so I didn't imagine that. Yeah. And I was always afraid, like I never wanted to go into like a lake or something that I didn't know of because I was afraid there were piranha in there. But,
well, there's also that Richard Pryor movie, The Toy, remember? There's a scene where he goes in a piranha pit thing.
Oh my God, you're right.
That always freaked me out because that scene always freaked me out, and I think because I had leftovers from this movie, and then you watch Richard Pryor getting eaten by piranhas or almost eaten.
Yeah, but actually, that had one of my favorite lines that I always quote, the Jackie Gleason line. I remember he goes, "That's not an ashtray, you asshole." You know? That's one of my favorite lines that I always like to repeat.
Oh, that's great.
But I only got to watch one thing, and this was actually 2 weeks ago. In all honesty, I forgot to talk about it last week. I watched the season 2 of Love, Death, Robots. Remember, I was a big fan of the first season.
Mm-hmm.
Second season was good, but it wasn't as good as the first one. There were a lot less episodes. Still great. I mean, the animation on these things are phenomenal. Like they fool you to that. It's almost sometimes you can't believe it's animation. But they probably had some issues, in terms of with the pandemic, trying to produce these. So I know it was supposed to come out, I think sooner. I think Cohn told us it was supposed to come out sooner than it did. And finally, it was delayed and it came out. I know season 3's in the works, I think for next year. But I can't imagine this is an easy series to create. There's probably a lot of work that goes into this because when you see the animations on these. It's just like, it just blows your mind. So, yeah, but, I mean, still great. I think you can easily binge it in an entire sitting. I think it's just over an hour if you watch all of them. They're all about 15 minutes. So, really, it's still pretty good watch, though, if you haven't seen that.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely want to check that one out. I was a big fan of the first season. And I love that the animation styles are so different between each segment. Everybody doing a different part. Yeah.
Yeah, and this one, like the first one you see is like almost like a Pixar kind of animation thing, crazy thing about this robot vacuum that goes crazy kind of thing. And it's like, so there's a little mix of comedy in there, and there's some like dark ones and some depressing ones. So it's a good mix.
All right, so let's get right into our interview with the cast and writer-directors of 616 WILFORD Lane. We had Mark S. Allen, Dante Yore, Jarek Roberts, John Littlefield, Alison Gorski, and Jessica Chancellor. And man, was this a fantastic interview. I was blown away that we got basically the entire cast to come on the show to talk about this movie. And Brian and I really loved it, as you'll find out after the interview when we discuss this as our feature film. So let's get right into it. Our interview with the cast and writer-directors of 616 WILFORD Lane.
Don't you hate it when you find the house of your dreams and then find out it may be haunted? Well, that's the premise of the new horror film 616 WILFORD Lane, and we are incredibly excited to welcome to the show the writers and directors and stars of the film. Welcome, everybody.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey
Guys.
Hey.
Hey, welcome everybody. I actually watched the movie yesterday and absolutely loved it. I thought you guys were incredible. But before we get into the movie, I kind of want to give everybody a chance to introduce themselves. So I'll start things off with John. If you just tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are.
Oh, wow. Okay. Johnny Littlefield here. I play Jim. And a little bit about myself. Yeah, I'm an actor, a voiceover guy, and yeah, really proud to be a part of this project.
Nice. What about you, Eric?
My name is Jarek Roberts. I've been in movies for 43 years, and I love burger movies. They're like recess to me. I love them. Good to see you guys.
Mark?
Hi, my name is Marcus Allen. I'm one of the writers, one of the producers, one of the directors of 616. And by one of the directors, I mean I mostly looked over to Dante and said, yeah, that's good. Keep doing that. That's great.
Dante?
Hey guys, I'm Dante Yore. I am one of the directors on 616 Wilford Lane. I also was the cinematographer, so I did both at the same time while apparently, according to Mark, getting thumbs up from him and encouragement. So no, Mark did more than that. He did a great job. But yeah, so that's who I am.
Jessica?
Hi, my name is Jessica, and I play Randy in the film. I'm an actress, Twitch streamer, Instagram content creator, all of the above, and I'm really glad to be here.
Thank you. And Alison?
Hi, my name is Alison Gorski. I'm an actor. I play Stacy in the film. This was actually my first feature film ever, so I'm eternally grateful to Dante and to Mark and Howard for casting me. And I'm really so excited that it's finally coming out and being seen in the world, because I'm really proud of it.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you guys doing that. You guys need no introduction, but because it was such a large group, I just thought it'd be easier for everybody to state their name. But I really appreciate you guys taking the time to come on, because we absolutely love the film.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And this is a record of amount of people we've had on at once, so this is pretty cool for us too. Especially and we love when we get a film that we absolutely love, and then get to talk to the people who made it and starred in it right after. It's always a plus. So that's really cool. So I guess let's get into it right away here. So this first question we have will be towards Mark, for Mark and Dante specifically. So where did the inspiration for this film come from?
I guess I'll jump in and take the lead, because my producing partner, Howard, hats off to him, sat down at a lunch and showed an article that he clipped from an actual lawsuit that took place. A couple in Connecticut had bought a house. Things started happening in the house that they couldn't explain, and they finally had to leave and seek counseling. And it turns out this type of event had happened with the previous owners. They failed to disclose it, and the lawsuit was won. And it set a precedent. It's happened in 12 other states since then. It's called the Ghostbuster Clause, and that's where it all began. We said, let's start there and go. And, we had collaborated with Dante before. He brought his ideas to the table. The end product is 616. Dante can kind of tell you the rest of the journey.
Yeah, I mean, I think, that was where we started, was just with the Ghostbuster law, the fact that this was actually a real law that got established. And we just thought that was like such a great idea. And then we just kind of like started kicking around concepts of, how to make that unique. Like basically, how do you take like a, kind of paranormal activity happening in your home and try to figure out if, it's actually happening, if it's happened to people before you, like, is this something to do with the house? Is it something to do with yourself? And so it was just us trying to kick around that idea of how you, tell that type of story. And if there's a way we can kind of flip it on its head a little bit. And, I don't want to give away too much in the film, but you guys have seen it, but anybody listening hasn't. So we kind of, decided to flip it on its head a little bit and have it come full circle at the end.
Yeah, that's the hard part about it. I know Tim and I had discussed, we're like, this is going to be a hard film to discuss it at certain points, because but we kind of discussed it ahead of time, so we're pretty well versed in trying not to spoil anything anyway, but still get some good content out of this. But and first of all, I have to say, I love the fact that it's named the Ghostbuster Law is named after one of my favorite movies. So that I think that's pretty cool.
It is cool.
Yeah. So this question is kind of for anybody that wants to jump in and answer it. But Brian and I have always talked about how a location can be a character in a film, and in this movie, the house is certainly a major character. What can you tell us about the shooting location? That's a really cool house.
Again, I'll jump in and keep it quick, because I got to give props to Dante. This started out as a cabin in the woods story. We had a location. We wrote a lot of this movie around, and it was this cabin in the woods. We flew Dante up to the remote part of Northern California, drove him 3.5 hours to this place that we loved. And he looked around and said, I hate it. We're not doing the movie here. Find a different house. And so because of that prompting, we found the house that was the house in the movie, and like you guys, I love that house. And I can Dante can elaborate further, but thank you, Dante.
Oh well, I have to throw it back to Mark though. Mark did find the house we used in the movie as well. Like Mark is always a genius at wrangling locations. It's incredible how he just can find things, especially in Northern California, where he is like the king of Northern California. A lot of people don't know that, but they handed him that crown about 60 years ago. He doesn't wear it very often. It just sits on a shelf.
So not true.
But yeah, I mean, we went and looked at this cabin, and it was great. It was just, in film, it's always easier to take a bigger location and make it smaller. It's always hard to take a small location and make it look bigger. And so the cabin we first looked at was just a little bit too small, that it felt like we weren't going to get enough breathing room in some of the things we wanted to do. And so, that's where Mark came in, and it was like, hey, we need, it would be great if we could find like a bigger location, just something grandiose. And then Mark just, found this house in El Dorado Hills, and he was like, let's check this place out. And it was fantastic. And it was like, yeah, if we can get this place, like, let's definitely shoot the movie here. This place is incredible. And so, that's where we found that location, and it worked out really well. And actually the owner of the house was in the process of selling it, right, Mark? Was he in the process of selling the house?
Yeah, they're literally like, every time we would do something, they would put it all back together again, knowing that the following week their house was going to be viewed by people to buy it. They sold the house the week we wrapped.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so they were like selling the house. So that was even better of them, because we were filming this like horror movie in their house, and we have things breaking and shattering and blood and just other things, and like in a week these guys are gonna sell this house. So it was like, oh man, I hope we don't mess it up too much. So we value in this place. But
yes, they had to disclose that a horror movie was made in their house.
Yeah. You didn't want the Ghostbuster rule. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully it increased the value of the sale a little bit, having like a movie film there. I don't know if it actually did or not, but yeah, it was a good time. And the owner and his wife, pretty much, we had to do a bunch of overnights there, like 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. for a lot of this movie, which is always rough. And so they didn't really hang out, but they had 2 teenage daughters, and we pretty much let them hang out in Video Village during the filming at their house, just to kind of check out how a movie was made. And so they had a ball, just like, being on set the whole time and watching the experience happen.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, and I think that yeah, based on the way this movie played out, I think definitely the right choice was made in like a big fancy house with, that's very desirable in a really cool town. I think that definitely plays off better than a cabin in the woods. So that's pretty cool that you ended up getting so lucky to get such a great location.
Yeah, I think we also wanted to play into the fact that, like, this family gets an amazing price on this house that should be out of their price range. And so it immediately like plants that seed of like, why is, the realtor selling this house, for so cheap compared to what it should go for. So it kind of throws up a mini red flag. But when you don't have a lot of money and somebody's offering you this mansion, for a killer price, of course you're going to like jump on it and consider it.
Well, I mean, it could have been worse. It could have been like Tom Hanks in The Money Pit, and everything, he falls to the floor, I mean, you guys just had a little bit of a haunting, but
also another desirable thing about the house, Jarek Roberts lives in the neighborhood. I mean, that's phenomenal. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I got the character and the actor confused.
He's the mayor of the town, isn't he? I thought he was the mayor,
And a neighbor.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he didn't disclose that right away, too. Is there a law about that you have to disclose if you're the mayor, or is that?
There should be, yes.
So, okay, so this one's to John, Alison, Jessica, and Eric. First of all, we thought you guys were absolutely incredible in this. I think that made this movie. One of the things that made it so enjoyable for us is that you as a cast were just so phenomenal. So. Now,
thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh,
we love kind words.
Oh, I got plenty of them. Don't worry, I got more.
Write them down.
But so this is the tricky part. So without you kind of all have there was so much more. There was so many mysteries going around, and as things got revealed. So we can't really get into spoilers, but like how. Every character kind of has its own little secret in this film. So how did that impact the way you played your roles? I guess if you want to, we can start. I guess John, we'll go to you first since you're on the first on my screen.
You play it straight. you just have to play it completely straight. You play the words on the page, period. You can't imply, you can't allude, you can't do anything. It's like comedy. Play it straight, man. It's just that's the way you play it, and it's scarier that way.
He's totally right. Don't be cute. Yep.
Eric, you did the same thing, I guess. You just kind of like.
I just did what Dante told me.
Fair.
No, I did. I said, what do I do? And he said, you do this and this and this. No, not like that, like this. Okay, thanks, Dante. He took care of me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's go to the great daughters in this film. Jessica, I guess you're first on my list. How did you kind of have the same thing? Did you have any challenges with it, or?
No, I don't feel like I had any challenges. I feel like my character, Randy, her personality kind of lends itself to being that, like, she probably has a million secrets that you don't know. And so it was very easy to just play her personality, and her personality kind of reigns true throughout the whole film. Even though she has a secret, she doesn't really change much. It's just like the outside details affecting her that change.
That's true. Yeah, you kind of like, you kind of always was like the out of the two sisters or siblings, there was always the fun one, and then more the kind of the straight-laced, more common sense one, so to speak. So I guess so that worked out well though too. So Alison, how about you?
Yeah, I guess it's hard for me to talk about it without giving anything away, but I'd have to agree with John. I played it straight. Played what was on the page, and Dante would kind of remind me of some double entendres or anything that might come out later. And it definitely added personal layers for it, but just played the scene by scene. Yeah.
Great.
Nice. So this one's for Mark and Dante. Speaking of this incredible cast, can you kind of tell us how this all came together, how the casting process worked?
I guess I'll jump in. We had an open casting call. We put it out online on a couple of casting agencies, and had thousands, frankly. For each role, we had over 1,000 entries. Now, of those, for the part of Randy, we would have like a 50-year-old male submit for it. So once we got all of those out of the way, we still had pretty good contenders. 200, narrowed it down to about 50 that's self-taped, and of that, we round that down to about 10 or under for each role. Had them come in, and Dante really leaned in precisely and knew at the moment. I'll let him elaborate. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but we pretty much knew who was going to be who the moment they walked in the room. Tay?
Yeah. I mean, we did the casting for it. I mean, John Littlefield, I'd actually worked with John in the past. We'd done Fear Farm together with Mark as well, Ballbusters. So John's kind of like my go-to. I feel like every time we're like working on a script, immediately I'm like, all right, who's John Littlefield going to play in this movie?
I second that. I don't mean to interrupt. I think you should put him in everything that you do. Tim and I say that all the time.
Sounds great.
I guess, I'd be remiss. I was just talking about like the new coming cast members. I did not mean to overlook John, because John is our ace in the hole. Absolutely. Go on.
Yeah. And so John was there. Same thing, with Eric. I'd done Monster Island with Eric about a year prior to this movie. So, I mean, he's Jarek Roberts. I mean, he's a legend. So I was, I mean, I grew up watching like Best of the Best and things with like Jarek Roberts. So I don't know, like he's just, he's Jarek Roberts. You got to have him in these movies. So that was great. With the Alyson and Jessica. It's actually funny. Like Jessica actually taped for Allison's role in the movie, so she actually taped for Stacy. And that's where we saw her. And then I actually brought her in. I wasn't sure. It's always hard, like on a self-tape, when you're like looking at a self-tape and you're looking at an actor's headshot to really like peg their age. And, actors are notorious for not telling you their age. They usually just give you like a range. Like, you ask an actor, like, how old are you? And they're like, oh, I play between, 20 to 28. It's kind of like the range you get. So you never really know how old an actor is. And so with Jessica, actually, we brought her in for the role of Randy, actually. All right, I'm not Randy, Austin in the movie. We brought her in for the role of Austin at first. And she walked in the room, and immediately when she walked in, I was like, okay, she's way too young for Austin. We called this wrong. But then she started auditioning, and it was like, well, this is Randy
Instant.
right here.
Absolutely.
Instant. We were like, this
Absolutely.
is Randy. So she actually never read for Randy.
Nope.
Like she read for 2 different roles in the movie, but never for the role she actually played. And then with Alyson, actually, John Littlefield was actually at that casting session with us when Alyson came in. And we had this girl, Stephanie Rons, who was our front runner at first. So during all the self tapes,
Of course, Stephanie.
and people had auditioned, this girl, Stephanie Rons, was kind of like our front runner coming into in the room audition. She was kind of like the girl where we were, pretty sad, like, oh, this is going to be the girl,
The one to beat.
And yeah, the one to beat. And the funny part is Alyson actually. Alyson didn't have anything, so it was like her first film. So Alyson had a headshot. She didn't have a demo reel. She didn't have anything else on Actors Access.
But how about this world of self-taping now? We can all be our best with no pressure. We don't have to get dressed up and go out and stand in front of strangers who are all bored. And it's just so great now to have this at home with your peeps, doing your self-tape, sending it in, doing it over and over up till you're really happy and sending it in. I love this world because I grew up when I was your age. It was horrible. God, you had to go to all these strange rooms, strange buildings, strange people, and act like you were comfortable.
Yeah. And then EcoCast.
Well, this was in person.
Amazing. Yeah, and with Alyson didn't even we didn't even have Alyson self-tape. We just liked her look. I don't think
walked in the room,
right, Alyson? We just had you come in the room, correct?
Yeah, my audition was in person.
That's a way to get a role. Look at that. First role, just walk
all
up.
she had,
snaps her fingers. This is mine. That's it.
Exactly.
Oh, I was just going to say it's so cliche, but I literally quit my restaurant job that day. And I was like, oh, I should just go to this audition. Even though, I was upset and I hadn't booked anything so far, but I'm so glad I went because I was literally in my waitressing uniform.
That's amazing.
You sound so good. What is your audio system? That sounds really great.
I think he's talking about you, Alyson.
Oh, I'm just on my iPhone.
Oh, Alyson, yeah, I'm talking about you. It's fantastic. I love your audio.
The nature of the voice.
Yeah, maybe I'm just projecting.
Yeah.
Hey, I'd like to go. I'm stopped in my tracks, by the way. Who in their right mind is making Jarek Roberts self-tape or anything? Just put him in your goddamn movie.
It's so much fun. I got to say, I love self-taping because I don't do it with my wife. I'm at home. It's so much fun for me, and it's no fear involved. I was always scared. I'm a terrible auditioner. Not anymore. It's great.
But yeah, now, you probably already have just booked 3 movies, right? And during this podcast right now.
No doubt.
Yeah. And so, Alyson was great though. She came in the room. The minute we saw her, we were like, that's the girl. Everybody got really excited. John was in the room with us as well. John was super excited. She just knocked it out of the park. And we were like, that's it.
Yeah, I was just hands down, that's the girl. I'm out if you don't hire her.
Yep.
And then Dante can't direct it if John's not in it. So this was all worked out perfect.
No, Alyson was, it was everything. It really was, it was that visceral, organic, spontaneous magic in the room that she brought. I don't know if she was wearing her waitress apron or anything. I didn't see that. Because if you're looking at that, you sucks. But she was perfect. She was flipping perfect.
And the chemistry between she and Jessica, you hope it's going to happen on the day, and then boom, the very first take, scene 1 with them together, we knew we had it.
Oh my God, it was great. It was great. I loved working with Alyson. It felt like having a sister for the whole shoot, for real.
Oh yeah, we lived together too, and we drove up to Auburn together.
We commuted up together. Oh my God, it was a wonderful experience, and it was actually my first film too ever. So it was so cool to have that experience with somebody just absolutely lovely to work with and be with.
No, I feel the same way.
Yeah, your chemistry. Yeah, there was really a strong point to this film. I thought it was one of the strongest points. Is that you guys? It was so believable as playing sisters, and it's just you had that the little bit of sibling rivalry, but the camaraderie at the same time. I thought that was really good. I'm someone who has 3 other brothers, so it's there. Some there's always that give or take with siblings, and Tim has a brother too. He could tell you that. So it's I thought it really worked well. I think it was really one of the strong points in this film.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And I have twin sisters named Randy and Stacy. Those were just placeholders for the names. We were always going to change the names of the characters. We never did. And
That's
what's
true?
interesting, yeah,
Oh
I have
my
twin
gosh.
sisters, Randy and Stacy, and the dynamic that you two actually brought kind of resembles them. It was creepy, actually,
Oh,
in a good way.
The name Randy felt so appropriate for Jessica's character
I
too.
know.
That's so funny. It was a real name.
I was like, this character is such a Randy.
Okay, so Tim and I, one of the things we love too is we love to hear, and this is for everybody. So if you guys want to take turns, you want to collaborate on this one, how you want to do it, but we love to hear fun behind the scenes stories of the actual filming. So are there any fun or challenging moments that you can think of that you want to share with us?
I can think of one right off the bat.
Okay.
I don't know how interesting it is, but I don't know where it shows up in the film, but at one point we're in a pool, and it was actually it was the first day we shot, and it was the one day where it was freezing outside. Maybe freezing isn't exact. Yeah, it was so cold. It was
sprinkling.
Yeah, and Jessica actually had to be in the pool, and I'm not in the pool throughout the whole scene, but I jumped on top of her, and I just felt so bad for her because she was physically shaking, and I think her like little lips and little fingers were blue, and yeah, that was probably the most brutal scene.
But if you didn't know, we did it right.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. Now I'm gonna go back and look though, but I'm gonna go back and watch it.
I mean, she looked great, but it was definitely freezing that day.
There were so many fun little nuances on set. Like it truly did feel like a family, the cast and crew, everybody together by the end. I think because literally we're sitting in a house for 2 weeks together, like day and night this whole time. But I think one of my favorite parts of the film actually is being able to work with practical effects. So a lot of the gags, in fact, I think 90% of them probably were completely real. And so to have things like on wires and, seeing movie magic happen real time was really cool to me.
Yeah, we're always big fans of practical effects. And actually, you reminded me of something. I have to say, Alison, thank you for creeping me out with your backward walk up the stairs, because that was actually super creepy.
But she
That
did
was
like
so good,
one take,
man.
just like instant, no practice.
Yeah, I don't like backwards things moving, and there's a couple of things. I have a list of things that I've seen so many horror films that there's a handful of things that freak me out. When people walk backwards places like that freaks me out. So well done.
How did you know we didn't reverse it, by the way? I'm so curious, and I've asked this question in edit so many times. How did you know that it was practical and not just reversed?
Actually, I didn't. But I was just actually, it didn't even dawn on me. I was so invested in the movie, I didn't even bother to actually think about that.
When I first saw it, I was like, "That's amazingly talented to be able to do that," because I didn't even cross my mind that you could reverse it.
Tim will tell you, I can't walk straight, not steps forward, and not trip and fall. So I don't even know how you did it anyway.
No, but again, I'll
honestly.
It looked phenomenal, and again, I will give props to Dante because there's that certain something that you can't put your finger on, and had we just reversed it, it would have not been as effective. You wouldn't be talking about it right now.
Well, it's funny because when we did it, I actually asked Alison. I was like, "Hey, do you think you can like walk up these stairs backwards and down the hall backwards without actually using the railing, so it doesn't look like you're like bracing yourself?" And she was like, "Yeah." And then she actually did it on like the first take, and we were all like super impressed. So I was like, "This is gonna be so obvious. This is gonna work. Like, we're not gonna let her touch the railing. We just need her to walk up steps backwards without looking. Like, this is a danger waiting to happen." And she actually did it like the first try. We were like, "Oh, okay, we got it. Great, moving on." That was crazy.
Combined with the night vision glowing eyes, it was lovely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I like that you guys use that effect a lot. Kind of like harkens back to the Paranormal Activity movies type of deal, or those found footagey things. And I like how you used it when it was appropriate like that. I thought that was a really effective part.
Yeah, it was one of those like funny things where Mark wrangled all these like night vision security cameras. So they actually were like night vision security cameras, and it was fantastic. And we did some testing with them. Mark actually sent me one down here to LA, and I was like turning off all the lights in my house and like putting this thing on and like looking at the feed on my cell phone and running around in the dark. And I'm like, man, this is super creepy. And so we just, thanks to Mark for that. I mean, he just, came up with a win for that. But it was actually funny because when we were filming, because they are these like intense night vision cameras, we actually did have to turn off like 99% of the lights in the house to make these cameras effective. So a lot of the actors in those scenes actually did have to move around in the dark, and there's actually a funny moment where when we were doing the night vision scenes, Gavin Supley, who plays Cody in the beginning of the movie, not to give away what Cody does, but he does something pretty terrible. You guys have seen it, so you guys kind of know the opening. But Gavin, there's a point where he stands up in his bedroom and he has to go to the door and open it. And all the lights are off in the bedroom because we're using these night vision cameras. So Gavin actually walks over the door and he can't find the doorknob to actually open the door up. And so we were just watching, we're in another room and we're watching the security feed on this big screen TV and we're watching the scene play out. And we're just watching poor Gavin like reach at this door and try to like locate this doorknob that he can't find. And so we have to keep resetting the scene because he can't find the doorknob to actually get out of the room. So,
right, the most inept possessed guy ever.
Yeah, so the most inept person ever can't figure it out.
Until I get possessed. Wait, yeah.
That's because he's from Ohio.
Deep Fear Farm reference.
Yeah, and I must say, like, as an actor, like, because we had the entire house outfitted with these cameras, we didn't have like a camera guy following us. It was just us in any of those scenes in this empty house in the complete darkness with a walkie-talkie hidden in the room to yell action. And it was the scariest thing. Like, there were scenes where I'm just like, this is scary. I feel like a ghost could come at me right now. Like, it was terrifying to act sometimes.
Yeah, that must have made so Dante too. He brings me back. So since you did the cinematography on it, that must have been that you must have had to have a lot of like thought process, a little more than a normal film, I guess. If you know, because you had to incorporate those kind of visuals, you know, ahead of time.
Yeah, we actually had to film. So all the security camera footage was filmed on separate days from the actual like on-camera footage from like the red cams we used, and so it made it a little bit tricky because, like you guys said, throughout the film, there are times where we're cutting from like a scene into the security camera feed and then back into the scene. And those are actually shot on 2 separate days because we basically have to clear out the whole house of all the production lights and rig back up the security cameras to get this footage. And so we had to get the actors essentially to repeat the movements they did a prior day almost perfectly so we could cut back and forth between what they were doing, you know, on a production day versus on a security camera day. So it definitely made it really tricky to kind of pull that off. It also made it really tricky in lighting just because I had to find a way to light the scenes, especially the night scenes. I had to find a way to light them so they didn't look lit at all. So when we cut to the security camera feed, it kind of matched, because if you had some key light on your actor and then you cut to the security camera feed and they don't have it, it would just kind of disconnect the audience. And so it kind of became really tricky on how to like light every environment so that it looked like it wasn't lit. And then we went to the security camera feed, it looked like the same environment you saw in the security camera feed as well. So it looked like nothing changed. So it definitely was a tricky thing. And when we were writing the script, we loved the idea. And it wasn't until we got into pre-pro that we realized we kind of wrote ourselves into a little bit of a pickle of like, okay, we're gonna have to figure out how to actually do this now. And so, you know, that became a little bit tricky, but, you know, luckily I think it played out really well in the film. And I don't think you can tell the difference between when we're cutting back and forth at all. So that was helpful.
And we talked about it in pre-production because if you reference Paranormal Activity, if you see any of those movies, they would never take the leap of faith that Dante and the crew did of using those cameras. They use the red cameras or like, so whatever they're using, and dumb that down to look like security footage. But when Dante did those test shots and we saw like the organic nature of it, the way it captures dust and every little organic thing flying through the air. And then also like the voyeuristic, when you see John running out to see who's creeping his house into the street, it kind of puts you in the moment. You're feeling it with them. I think it helped put the audience into the emotion.
Yeah, there's something I wanted to say, and we might, if you guys don't want us to cut this part out, I do want to say something that's definitely on the spoiler side of this, but I figure I'll give the opportunity, but you can decide if you want to keep this or not. But I think what was so great is that, you know, while there was this giant, you know, backstory and secret going on through all the characters as you watch the film, what I think was great is not only were you doing such a good job of you know, fooling the characters within the film, but like the audience was kind of pulled into that whole charade too. And I think like when I remember when I got to the ending, I was like, whoa, they had me complete. Like I had no clue that this was going this way. And I thought that was, just so impressive on how that worked. So I know it might be blending into a little bit of spoiler territory there. So I don't know how you feel about commenting on that, but
I mean, I don't think that really gives away too much. So I think you're good. I think you walked that line really well.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I mean, I will say the fun part about this film too that we did with that. I mean, not giving away spoilers of the ending or whatever, but it is one of those films where if you go back and watch it a second time and you pay attention to the dialogue, we actually walk that line in the dialogue really well. At the same time, we really focused on that in the dialogue of like, you went back and you heard the dialogue a second time around, kind of knowing now what finishing up the film, does the dialogue still play now, kind of knowing the secret? And it actually does.
Yeah.
And that took a lot of work in the script, was like, how do we make this work in a way that, these conversations and the things that happen can happen? And then if you were to, figure out the twist at the end and go back and watch it a second time around, like, wait a second, that doesn't work. If you went back and watched it, you realize it does work. And so that was, a little bit complicated, just kind of working that in of like, how do we make dialogue that can have two different meanings throughout an entire film?
Yeah, and I did watch
and
it
a very
twice.
subtle behavior difference when they're in the house being captured as opposed to when they're out of the house, not being recorded.
Yeah. And I did watch it twice, and I purposely went in the second time seeing if I can find any clues, but you got me again, so I did not see anything.
That's a great compliment. That's fantastic.
So and the best part is I even enjoyed it more the second time. So that's if there's no better compliment to a film that you could watch it multiple times and like it again better the second time. So
absolutely not.
Well, guys, I want to give you guys a chance to tell our listeners where where they can find the movie, and of course promote any websites or anything. But before I do, I just want to say how much I appreciate you guys finding the time to come on. Eric, Brian told me that you were on the guest list, and I said, well, that's impossible because the guy's got 600 IMDb credits, and there's no way he's going to find the time to be on our little show. I grew up watching him, so it's such an honor to meet you, even if it's over Zoom, sir. And John, you became one of our favorite actors in Fear Farm, and Brian and I have talked about that performance for a while now.
Pal.
So I really appreciate you coming on. And Jessica and Alison, definitely look forward to seeing more from you guys and seeing how your career plays out.
Yes, I think we have some future horror legends in the making there with the
Thank you.
And also, we can't forget the Dante and Mark collaboration. We is definitely a positive because we've loved everything we've seen so far. So
yeah, Dante and Mark killed it. We're leaving them out. Dante and Mark killed it, and also Dante gives the best answers, doesn't he?
He does. Dante is amazing to work with. Like I bow to him. This is one of my first film experiences in this way, and I owe it all to him and my producing partner Howard Bird, who's not with us. Again, this was born by a clipping that he put down and said, "This is going to be our next movie." And it is. And while the cast is here, I just want to tell you guys how much I love you and what a joy you were for Dante and Howard and I.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
That's so sweet.
Awesome. So yeah, tell us where this is on VOD now. I understand.
Yep. Now playing everywhere. Prime, Apple TV Plus, pretty much every possible VOD platform except Netflix.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I guess if everyone wants to go around, if they want to share any personal social media or anything to follow, if anyone wants to share that, or websites so they can follow your careers. Now that we've you guys have come on, you're going to be extremely popular with all our 25 listeners. No, I'm only kidding. But I know our listeners are going to want to definitely follow your guys' career. So if you want to let anyone know where they can follow you.
I just want to pass on a message from the cast of Gemstones. I left the set of Gemstones this evening, and they said, "Hey, where are you going? Why are you running away? We want to go out to eat." I said, No. I have a podcast. I said, "You have a podcast? Well, tell them we said hello." So from the cast of Gemstones, hi guys.
Woohoo!
Awesome.
Say hello back. That's awesome. I guess we'll start with again with John up there because it's just that you guys. It's just amazing. It's the first Zoom where nobody's changed places.
Everybody knows I'm the worst. My mother can't even Google me. I'm the worst at all of it. I'm just old school. Just as my mother would say, just use the Google. And you can find me.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, I think Eric, you are next then in the line of names here. Yeah, or you could just say use the Google too.
Yeah, use the Google for Christ's sake. Eric Roberts Google. It's okay.
Yeah. If they can't find you though, I don't know where people are looking because I think it's you're
Exactly.
No, the EricRobertsActor.com. What else, Eliza? Instagram and Eric Roberts. Where else, Eliza? Yeah, she said the
Hi,
same
Eliza.
thing. Google him. She said.
Yeah, shout out to Eliza,
Yeah,
who was wonderful in the
Eliza was
movie.
also
yeah,
in the
that's right.
film.
Yes.
Yeah, Eliza's in the
That's
film.
That's right. She was great.
Eliza's my wife and my hero, guys.
Oh.
For all of you
Amen.
who don't know.
Aw.
Dynamic duo, you two.
Yeah, we have a good life.
I think Mark, you are next on here.
Instagram at TV Marcus Allen, Facebook Marcus Allen Show, and don't forget 616 Wilford Lane. And by the way, the cast of Fear Farm 2 told me to drop a shout out. Fear Farm 2 coming the end of the summer.
Oh, you don't
Yay.
know how much we can't wait for that. By the way,
This guy, we got this kid, Johnny Littlefield. That's phenomenal.
nice. I know. I cannot wait for Fear Farm 2. We love the first one. So, looks like Dante, you are next.
Yeah, I've got kicktokill.com. So you can check out kicktokill.com. Also on Instagram, kick2kill. So that's my production company. So you guys can find me on there. And
Yeah, you have great
if
photos
not-
on there, by the way. You have great
Oh,
photos.
thanks. I appreciate that. I actually don't do my own Instagram. My wife actually does
Oh.
it for me. So I'll be sure to tell you.
Don't be
that.
ashamed. Do not be ashamed of that.
I am not ashamed of that at all. I definitely am not. I always have, Amy. You guys actually know Amy. Amy plays Gemma in Fear Farm.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we
so,
follow her. She's great. Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, so Amy's fantastic, but she's always the one. Cause I do all these films and stuff, and there's so many shots and movies that I don't know which ones are like the best ones to throw in. So Amy always like picks them out and does them for me, and throws those up on Kick to Kill on Instagram. So God bless her for that, because I don't have it in me. But yeah, so that or as John says, use the Google.
I think that's going to be our
My
new
mother
slogan
says
for the
that.
show.
Use the Google.
Tim, we need to do that every episode. We just need to work that in. Use the Google somewhere.
All right, yeah, I'm down with that.
I should get a soundbite of my mother saying that. Use the Google.
Oh yeah, if you do, you send it to us, and
Fantastic.
we'll make her famous, and she'll use it.
Oh my
We'll use
God!
it all the time.
Ma, just say use the Google, and she'll be like, okay, use the Google.
It is so classic, Johnny. Really, truly.
That's awesome. Jessica, I think you are next.
Yeah. So my social media is a little wonky. It's actually under Maid of Might, and you can find me throughout the internet there. All my shenanigans.
Oh yeah, you do a lot of cosplay. We follow you on there, right? You do a lot of cool cosplay stuff.
Yeah, not as much lately. I've been more so going to the world of acting and Twitch streaming and gaming, but still have some fun there occasionally.
How about you, Alison?
Yeah, my Instagram is just my first and last name. It's really not impressive or anything, but I have a movie coming out, I think in a month or two. It's called Jungle Run, and I'm really proud of it. So look out for that.
Oh, we definitely will.
Yeah.
Yeah, and let us know. You can email us and we can we can share it, make sure it gets out there for everybody.
No, I will. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, thanks so much, guys. This was
Yeah.
incredible.
Thanks for
thank you
having
so
us.
much.
Thank you.
This
Thank
was
Big round
awesome.
of applause for Civil Gore.
Woo!
Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
really appreciate you guys having us on. Really appreciate
anytime,
it.
anytime.
We so
You guys-
appreciate it. Thank you so much for everything.
Oh,
Hey,
absolutely.
Dante, Mark, see you guys soon. Peace out.
Yeah, much love, you
All
guys. Peace out, everybody.
Later,
Love you
Eric.
guys.
Have a
See
good
you
one.
later.
Hey, take it easy,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.
Okay, Brian. Well, again, I'm constantly blown away at the caliber of interviews and guests that we get on the show, and this one was definitely a real treat for us, and always a fun time to talk to people who make movies that you really, really enjoyed.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's funny because we always say this, but it really is. It really humbles you to know that, like, here we are, just this little podcast, and like starting like 4 years ago, who would have thought like we'd be like having like full on casts and creators of films on all at a good time, all at once like that, like a press junket essentially, It's
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, look at the caliber of people. I mean, there's like people that we've always wanted to talk to, like John Littlefield, since saw Fear Farm, and we got to, and of course, like, I mean, Jarek Roberts is a legend, the fact that I never thought we'd ever have him on the show, and that was great. And then it's like and everyone is just so gracious and so awesome to talk to, and it's like it really is. It makes everything worthwhile that we do, I think, and like we just hope that our audience loves it because as much as we do, because then that would just make this podcast whole,
Yeah. No, I think they do. I hear so many compliments on our interviews from different people who Kevin was talking the other day about how much he enjoyed the interview with the guys from Valentine Bluff.
Oh yeah.
So,
I mean, like stuff like that, like we've been doing lately too. It's like fun, like the up and coming like films and Kickstarters and stuff. It's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so much fun. All right, well, let's get right into the movie. This is 616 WILFORD Lane. I'm gonna tell you the cast list as we typically do, but it's pretty much everybody.
It's pretty much who we just talked to, give or take, with the exception of poor Jasmine Waltz, who was not in the group, but
right.
She's still no less. She did a great performance in this.
Yes. So this was written and directed by Mark S. Allen and Dante Yore, starring John Littlefield as Jim, Jarek Roberts as David, Alison Gorski as Stacy, Jasmine Waltz as Austin, and Jessica Chancellor as Randy. The synopsis is, a grieving man relocates his 2 teen daughters to a charming town and into their dream home. Quickly, the dream becomes an inescapable nightmare. And before we begin, we will not go into spoilers because we promised during the interview not to go into spoilers. We danced close to the line, but we never crossed it, and we don't intend to cross it with the discussion of the film.
So bear with us. It's one of these films that by far we would not want to rob anyone from discovering all the nuances themselves. So, I mean, it'd probably be a little bit different of a review this time. I guess we'll just we can just go through a lot of the stuff. I mean, you hear it in the interview as well, some of the stuff that we loved about it. What I think is cool I think about this movie is when it starts, you kind of it kind of gives you this preconceived notion of what this film is going to be like. And the fact that it still manages to engage you and then flips you completely the other ways at points of the movie, I think is just strength. And I think that strength is brought by, I mean, like we said, not only is the writing and directing so great in this, but the cast is just so perfect in every role. I don't think you could have cast anybody better in each role. It was, they fit so well.
That's why I wanted to ask the question about the casting process, because it was pretty amazing. They got such chemistry between everybody. In the film, I thought everybody just worked so well together, and John Littlefield he amazes me at how I don't know how to describe it. It's like this casual acting, like he makes it look so effortless.
It does.
It's easy, and it's just I was fascinated by it. I really was.
I mean, whether he's literally he plays in this he plays this grieving father who's trying to deal with his two one rebellious daughter, one just wild daughter, but they're trying to he's trying to give them a new life after they lose their mother, and and yet, you're like, wow, dude, I want to hang out with that dude. He's so cool. He's just a cool, laid back, nice guy. You want to hang out with him. And then in Fear Farm, right, he plays a guy, like a crazy, guy that literally, uses, people for, hand cream or whatever. And yet, you still want to hang out with him, guy. That's how cool he is. No matter what he does, he, always makes you want to hang out with him. Because I think it is that just the coolness he has.
Well, I like the laid back personality, because to me it seems more realistic. It doesn't feel like you're watching somebody acting when they're just kind of being chill. And I just love that about his performances. He just has this chill demeanor about him that I really, really like.
Oh yeah, I'll watch him in anything. You put him, if I see his name on the movie, I'm watching the movie. It's a guarantee.
Yeah. And then so talking about the rest of the cast while we're on that subject, Jarek Roberts, I mean, he's got a fairly small role in this. He plays the mayor. Not a insignificant role by any means.
No, that's the thing. It's a very significant role, just not a lot of screen time.
Right, but the screen time he does get is incredible. He just I mean, like I said, he's a movie legend anyway, so it shouldn't be surprising that he takes any part and turns it into his own. But I thought he was incredible in this.
Well, because if you notice, everything he's in, he doesn't. It's always 100%. Like always, whatever character he is, he plays it as best as you can. And I think that's what's so impressive. It's like this role, like he said, like he's not a lot of screen time, but when he's on the screen, he like it's like you're just drawn to it. You can't look away. And the best part is like the scenes with him and John Littlefield. It's like, come on,
those
like,
were fantastic.
That's gold.
Yeah.
That is gold.
That's gold, Jerry. It's gold.
It's gold, Jerry. It's gold. Have the soup. But yeah, and it's like it's like he's like again, like it's like the casting like just fits so well. And I guess like we should go into the the daughters played by Alyson and Jessica. And to find out that that's their first roles, I mean, to be so like just play the part so well. I mean, that's crazy to find that out. Like I would have thought that, I mean, I didn't really look at all the IMDb's before I did it, but like to find out that they like just look and to find out in that story in the interview that like Alyson basically like walked in to the like right from her job she quit and got this role. It's like talk about like
that sounds like something somebody made up.
It does. It's like talk about like the perfect like what was it serendipity kind of thing. It's like fate is like was obviously like pointing the right way with her. So I think they're gonna have like a really good career. I think because they're so good in this kind of role, and they're gonna if they want to do a lot of horror stuff, I know they're gonna do good. But I think they'll do anything fine. I mean, they're
for sure.
You could just tell they're really good in their roles. So.
Yeah, and we talked about we talked in the interview about the house. I can't wait for you guys to see this house. It does remind me. You're right, Brian. It did remind me a lot of the Paranormal Activity 2 house.
Right, like especially that one shot they did. Like there's the one shot when John Littlefield's sitting on the couch.
Yeah,
and you see the kitchen in the background. Totally reminds me of that shot. Now that may have been intentional, maybe just a nod. Either way, it just had that feel to it. And I was like, oh, that's kind of really cool. But oh my God, that house. And I looked up that town is real. The town that's in there, it's Old Town Auburn, I guess is where they filmed the town scenes in there. So I looked up where it was. So next time if I have time when I'm in the, when we're out with Julie's, visiting Julie's family and we can get a tie. 'Cause I think it's up past closer to the Tahoe area. Is where this little town is, and that just looks really like a cool town to check out. I think they said Redondo Hills, I think, is where the house was, though. I don't think they filmed that in the same location. But then again, I'm not great on my California geography. but yeah, I mean, that house was phenomenal. It made it like it really sold it, and like I love the story that I wasn't even the intention originally. It was not written for a house that size. But
that's funny because I was surprised when Mark pointed that out because it does fit the story so well to have it take place in a house like this as opposed to like a not even just a cabin in the woods, but as opposed to like maybe like a decrepit old house on the edge of town or something that you would think is haunted, which you see a lot of these movies where you have people
like my East Meadow house. You remember that, right? That like that would not, and that probably was haunted. In all honesty, I don't know.
But you do see that in movies where it's like, oh, it's a fixer upper, and they're gonna have to move in and fix it up. It was. I loved the twist that this is like a, incredible mansion, and probably above what they can afford, but they kind of get.
Do you remember how much he said? He was looking in the $250,000 range, and he buys a $3 million house. But that's great. But then you give him such a deal on it that he does. And I'm like sitting there, and he's like out there. He's like whipping out like money to his door. I'm like, dude, you better save that. You just said your budget was $250,000, and now you just put a $3 million house.
I'm building a house right now. That's insane. Like I'm stressing about every penny. I mean, it's crazy. So yeah, that was I like that twist to it, and I thought the opening. Well, again, I'm not getting into the spoilers. The opening was really incredible. I love the opening. I thought it was fantastic.
They're very familiar. You'll see. You'll definitely. It'll definitely be familiar to you, which is what was so great about it because it draws you in and you have this expectation, like I had mentioned earlier. But then it's different. It goes a different way, and I think that's like the whole time it's kind of like leading you one way, but it's kind of maybe wink, wink, nod, sending you another way. It's one of these movies that, like, I think repeated viewings, like, it gets even better because I think you appreciate even more the nuances that it has.
Well, one thing I noticed when I was watching it is I could tell in a film when I'm either I know I'm watching a movie or I'm actually immersed in the story, right? You have those movies that you watch and you're like, oh, okay, but you're kind of always aware that you're just watching a movie. And then there's ones you kind of get sucked into. And I think the reason I kind of got sucked into this one is not only that house, because you kind of want to hang out there. It's a cool house. You kind of want to hang out and stay in that environment. And most of the movie takes place inside that house. And then also I think it's just the people, like the cast was so likable that you kind of just want to kind of be a fly on the wall and hang out with them as well. So I thought that chemistry between not only the cast themselves and the location they were shooting in kind of combined to make this kind of little magical sense of immersion that I don't always get in movies like this.
I mean, don't you think that we would have made the perfect, we would have added to the foursome of golf that, like, when Jarek Roberts invites John Littlefield's character to golf? Like, don't you think we should have been the other two in the foursome of that golf?
Not if you, oh my God, not me. Have you ever seen me golf, Brian?
Well, I saw you mini golf. I think you're pretty, I know you mini golf well. That's the hard part. Shoot, you can drive, but then it's when you get to that short game is where you need the skills. So your mini golf skills will help you.
I haven't golfed since I was in my teens. I don't want to try that.
I call myself an amateur golfer is where I'm at. I mean, the funny thing is, so every time I go to golf, like I'll golf with my brother-in-laws a couple times. I'll golf with my dad, my stepdad. What I can do is I always like start off the first hole. I'm so eager, and I get like a nice first shot, and it goes downhill for a few holes. Then somewhere in the middle, I kind of start averaging a decent scores on the thing. And then right when it, like towards the last couple of holes, there's always one shot I make that like everyone is blown away with somewhere in the middle. Now, usually I'm already like 45 over par at that point. So it's really doesn't make a difference. It's like that home run, like in baseball, when you're already down, like you're down like 14-2, and you hit like a solo home run. It's like that level of impact, but it's still kind of, since it's always towards the end, I kind of always leave with this expectation. Well, maybe I didn't golf so bad until I look at the scorecard. But still, imagine how much fun that round of golf would be. Who cares?
Oh my
You'd
gosh.
probably forget to even hit the ball. You'd probably just keep walking and just driving around the cart to catch up,
Oh, yeah, I'll definitely do that for sure.
That would be great.
I'll just caddy. I don't even have to play. I'll caddy for you guys. That'd be great.
Well, yeah, you could be with me at least, so then we can like talk and be so excited that we're like hanging out with those guys. And you know what, like the scene when they're in the restaurant, like at the brewery restaurant, like I'm like, that looks like fun. Shoot, I want to go there.
Yeah, and it had the whole movie had like a good vibe to it. It's not, it's obviously it's a horror movie, but there's a lot of daylight scenes. There's a lot of pool scenes. I mean, it seems like a fun vibe to hang out in, even though it's a horror movie. But that makes the contrast that when it does get to the horror parts that much more stark. So I like that.
Yeah, and I mean, we mentioned it in the interviews you heard, like, but wait till you see. I know we described it in the interview, but when Alison Gorski's character does the backwards walk up the stairs, like that is just downright creepy. And then to find out, like, basically she did it and that was all practical. They didn't reverse the film. And it was funny when Mark asked me, he's like, how did you know it was practical effect? I said, I was so invested. I just didn't even care. I didn't even think about it.
I never thought about them reversing the film. I think it's because you can tell when something's reversed.
Yeah. I
mean, you can tell. And I think he's right. I think it would have looked a little off.
Oh yeah, well, because I think John, the other characters in the scene were moving forward. They were still moving when she did that backwards walk. So it was like they would have had to do some real like obvious effects that I don't think would have played out as well. But no. I tell you, that was downright creepy with her walking back up there like that.
Well,
and she,
I almost mentioned that when Mark was talking about how you could see the dust in the cameras and stuff. What's funny is I was sitting there watching that and I was going, now, are they really capturing the dust, or did they like add that in to make it look more realistic? Because I know
like, a hand underneath one, like.
Well, no, because like he said, like in the Paranormal Activity movies and stuff, they'll use these different kind of cameras that don't pick up all that stuff. and then they'll filter it to make it look like a security camera. So when I saw like actual dust flying around, in my mind, I wasn't thinking, oh, they're using actual night vision cameras. In my mind, I was thinking they're using some kind of fake camera, and then they're like CGIing dust in to make it look more realistic or something. I don't know.
Like,
it's kind of funny.
Tim was like combing the credits for dust handler.
Yeah.
Like
where's the dust handler? There's got to be a dust handler here somehow, or a dust CGI artist.
No, but I mean, I think one of the selling points is this movie. You can, I think you'll just have a good time watching it. Like it's got it's got some good scares in it. It's got some some good funny moments. It's got like all the kind of stuff that you like in a horror movie. At least I like in a horror movie. I mean, I don't always need to be 100% like uneasy all the time, or sometimes I just like a good horror movie that has like a mix of all the kind of things I like in it, like some good scenes, some cool set pieces, some great acting, some fun, and this had it all. And so I enjoyed it. I watched it twice. I liked it better the second time.
Yeah. I definitely want to watch it again. I didn't get a chance to watch it the second time because, like I said, I just watched it yesterday. So I didn't have a chance to watch it today because I was in training, but I definitely want to see it again. And it's a good time. You guys are going to enjoy it, so go check it out for sure.
Definitely check it out on VOD, and that is definitely going to the Monolith as soon as it is available for Monolith perusal.
Nice. So Brian, what did you have for our beer pairing for 616 Wilford Lane?
So because John Littlefield's performance as the anguished father was so strong, I figured that was where I'd have to like kind of focus on. So I found one called Anguish Double IPA from Device Brewing Company in Sacramento, California, which is not too far. I think it's like a couple hours away from that town actually that it was filmed in there. And it's funny when I copied and pasted, it actually literally gave the zip code to Sacramento, California, which is not needed, so I'm not going to read it. But anyway, it's Device Brewing Company out of Sacramento, 8.5%. So the West Coast style Imperial IPA brewed with Midwest malt, Northwest hop, and California ale yeast. So it's kind of like it's like everything in there.
Yeah, a little bit of everything.
Fun. Yeah. Golden color, medium light body, dry finish, high bitterness. Hop character is a wonderful balance between danky, fruity, and floral. Okay,
sounds good. Sounds good to me. I'm always down for a double IPA. I don't care.
Yeah, and those
where
West
it comes
Coast.
from.
It's funny. A lot of people aren't like the two main kind of IPAs. I think that people are like the kind of have a thing is a West Coast IPA and a New England style IPA. And I think it's like I'm kind of okay with both of them, but I know there's some people that will only like one of them. It's funny. It's like I swear to God, everyone's got to find like something. Like why can't like you just like beer? Like a style of beer. Why do you gotta like? I'm not gonna drink this. I only like that. Just there's always got to be sides to everything. I swear.
Yeah, I mean, my beer snobbiness only extends so far, but at some point I have to, I just like beer in general.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, I am definitely a beer snob, but I'm saying it's like it's like to me it's like I could like I'm not gonna close myself off to.
No, like once you get above a certain level, then I'm like wide open. Everything goes. Once you get above a certain level, I'm good.
Yeah, and there's not an IPA I won't try either. So.
Oh yeah, no, never. So. All right, well, let's get to our triple threat trivia for last week. We were looking for an actor or actress, and we were looking for Mr. Clancy Brown.
Yeah.
So clue number 1: I starred as 2 different characters with the exact same name in 2 separate but unrelated films. So Clancy played 2 characters named Captain Hadley, The Guardian from 2006, and in The Shawshank Redemption from 1994. Interesting.
I know. Isn't that funny that he managed to... And one of them was so iconic. I mean...
Yeah, really. Yeah. Clue number 2. I'm connected to a very well-known hockey franchise, although in not the way you may think.
That was one of my favorite clues I ever came up with. Because it's so random.
Clancy played the voice role of Siege in Disney's The Mighty Ducks animated series. So that was a tricky one.
Yeah. There's no one... If anyone got it from that clue, if that clue actually helped them, then you are like... You're like elite level, like triple threat.
Clue number 3. I am a 2-time nominee and 1-time winner in the same category of the Fangoria Chainsaw Awards. So Clancy was first nominated for Best Supporting Actor in 1992 for Pet Sematary 2 and was nominated and won for Best Supporting Actor for Mortuary Tales in 2021, which was well-deserved. That was a fantastic role.
Yeah, love that movie. That's a movie that if you've not seen yet, what are you waiting for? Go watch Mortuary Tales.
Yeah.
It's on Shudder, so you have no excuse.
All right, so this week we are looking for another actor or actress. Here are your clues. Listen closely. Clue number 1. My first film role was to be the last in the franchise? I will say it was intended to be the last in the franchise.
Yes.
It may or may not have been the actual last.
Well, it was more the play, I think, on the title. So,
my second theatrical film role was definitely weird. And you know how guys how Brian loves his wordplay, so pay attention to those. And clue number 3, in my most known horror role, I inadvertently almost caused the main antagonist to quit due to my death scene.
Yeah, and now that I think is the clue, because that's a very well-known story amongst the horror community. I think a lot of people, if you're fans of that particular movie franchise, you'll probably be clued in right away with that, because that's been told in a lot of different documentaries all the time. So
yeah, I think so. I think that you guys should be able to get that one. You horror fans should definitely be able to get that one. All right, so we have another listener question, and I promise we'll stay away from food and dog etiquette this time around. Week. So David McHugh, Horror Mailman, sent in a question, and it was, what is your scariest roller coaster moment? Brian, I'm going to have to let you take this one, because I got to think about this one a second.
I mean, obviously if I want to do it like a kind of a chintzy answer, so to speak, I mean, obviously maybe one of my first big roller coasters may have been scary, but I don't want to do that, because now that, anyone that knows Tim and I know we've rode a number of coasters. We're coaster junkies. I mean, I've ridden over 300 different coasters, which is, believe it or not, really small amount in our group of friends. It's like laughable. But anyway, so I'm trying to think of a more modern day coaster that kind of gave me a moment. And it's not that like really any roller coaster kind of scares me. Like, I'll go on, I will say I was a little nervous the first time I went on King Ka, because that was at that point the tallest. Still, I think it is still considered the tallest, right? Yeah, the tallest and fastest. Now it's not the fastest, but I think it was the tallest, fastest. And probably our coaster friends were like, do your research. But maybe a little off. Or those guys from your coasters, favorite coaster sucks, are going to come find our podcast and get my fact wrong. But I remember the first time I was a little nervous. I wouldn't say terrified, because I was going to go on it anyway, and I was excited to go on it. And coasters really don't generally scare me. It's more like a drop tower scares me. I'm not a big fan of those, even though I go on them all the time. But I would say, one time it was kind of a little nerve-wracking. It was that one I went on at the Steel Pier amusement park in Atlantic City. That one is across from Now, which is, remember Showboat? Remember, Tim, that little park across from
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And that's when my friend Mark and I went on the roller coaster, and the guys were laughing because our lap bar didn't really go down all the way, and they thought that was kind of funny. It was like this weird little wild mouse coaster. I knew it was down enough that we weren't gonna go out, but I remember Mark's hands, that term white knuckle, he had a white hand. He was so holding tight the thing. It was a little frightening, but I want to say one of the I think it's kind of funny, and I still remember this. Our good buddy Mike Collins, of course, one of the hosts of Coaster Radio, which is responsible for this podcast in many ways, as we always say, him and EB, but had the similar thing. So there's a roller coaster at Six Flags Magic Mountain, Tatsu. It's one of those flying roller coasters. And that the flying roller coaster itself is not scary, where you're kind of suspended over. Where you're in a sitting position like a suspended coaster, and then it flips you back, and then you're kind of facing down the floor, so you're kind of always facing the ground. But what's amazing about Tatsu and at Magic Mountain is when you're going up the lift hill, you're already high up the mountain. So at points you're literally going up, and there is you're not that high up, but you're high up because of the mountainous terrain of it. And going up that thing, and you're just suspended, with from above. So if any moment that thing decides to let go and you plummet down, you have no hope. And so the first time I went on Tatsu, I was kind of whoa, this is kind of creepy, because we're literally doing these swerves way up high. So it's ordinarily we probably would only be maybe 80 feet up, but we're now almost 100 and something up because of where it's located. But what makes me laugh is, that's probably one of them. But other than that, there's really not many scary moments for me on coasters. But I still remember the Mike Collins, when we were on that, we did the ERT. They had special ERT that night, the Coaster Radio meetup there. And when we were going up, we did Tatsu. We saved it because we had the Q-bots and stuff. but we saved that because there was a special promotion, like a Takis promotion there or something that they gave us the wristbands for. So, we were going to get ERT on that after the park closed anyway. So we decided to wait and go on that later. So went on at night, and I still remember going up that first lift hill when you're like the floor is just like, so you're going up and actually the terrain is kind of going down a little bit. So you're like going up and it's like you're not really going that high, but you're way above the ground. And I still remember Mike Collins just going, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit is going up. And I'm looking down, I'm like, and it's so dark you can barely make out the ground. It looks like you're like, you feel like you were like 5,000 feet above the ground. And I'm like, at that point, I'm like, you know what? I'm a little nervous. I have to say if our coach, I'm always confident in that the coasters are going to work the way it's intended, but I'm like, this is one I definitely would not want to, I think you can probably get by with other coasters malfunctioning, maybe like valleying in a loop or something, or like the track comes to a halt somewhere. But like, here's one where I don't want to trust it being stuck up way up, like on a coaster like that. So that one probably is the best I can do, and it's very minimal on the scare factor. So really don't have many. It's not a cop-out answer. It's just it's hard when you ride so many coasters. Oh, yeah. Actually, no. You know what? I completely forgot this because I don't even know if people count this as a coaster, but I'm going to count this as my most terrifying moment, actually. I don't know why I didn't even think of this. I think because a lot of people don't count it as a coaster. That thing at the Stratosphere, I think it's like Extreme.
Oh, yeah,
it's that teeter-totter on the edge. It's so funny. We did that when Julie and I were doing our cross-country trip back when she was moving back to New York. Moving to New York. We stopped in Vegas for a couple days. We were just driving all the way back, and we did that. And I remember I was so terrified of going like on this thing, but I had to do it because I'm like, at that point, I'm like, I was really like starting to get my coaster thing, trying to get like every ride in, and I was like, I didn't want to like chicken out, and I'm like, I always kind of wanted to do this, even though this terrifies me. But let me tell you, that was probably the most terrifying thing, and I said it was one of the things that I probably don't even know if I could ever do again.
Wow,
like, it was so terrifying to me because I don't know if you saw what that is, but like,
Oh yeah, I've seen videos of it.
Yeah, but what's crazy is so the first one, it like kind of tips you down, and we of course like Julie's like, well, maybe let's not do the front row. I said, if I'm doing this, I'm doing the front row. I'm gonna get it all out in one shot. So we get in this thing, and it does the first tip, and then it tips you back. You don't really go all the way. Then you kind of go down a little bit, and it kind of like right before you're going to get the edge, it flips back again, and you go back. Then this, when you're all the way at the edge, this thing tips you all the way up, and then literally points like straight down off the edge of this thing. And when you're in the front, you're past where the track point is. So you're like literally hanging off above the Vegas Strip, like just sitting there looking down, and then this thing decides the teeter-totter goes up and down a couple of times just for effect, and then brings you back. And I'll tell you, that still by far was probably the most terrifying kind of experience. And I went on that pterodactyl thing. Remember that thing? And even that wasn't for some reason as scary as this. I don't know. This one probably is. So that's my answer. Even if some people may not count it as a coaster. I don't know. You get into these things with the coaster community. What counts, what doesn't. You could be discussions for days, as Tim knows. But so that would probably be my choice, even if it's maybe not considered an exact coaster.
Yeah, I kind of had to go the same route because I had not the exact same route, but I had to go back to my early years in coaster, the hobby. But some people might laugh at this, but I didn't go on a real roller coaster until 2014. That was the first time I'd gone on Thunder Road. I'd gone on the Disney coasters, Space Mountain, Thunder Mountain Railroad. I had done those, but as far as like an actual a rock and roller coaster I had done before then. But as far as like a quote unquote real roller coaster outside of a Disney park, I had not been on anything until 2014. That's how new to the hobby I am, and that's why my coaster count is so pitiful. But anyway, but since then I've ridden hundreds of times.
Maybe you've been on Fury a million times.
Yeah,
already.
well my coaster count's not great, but I've been on the coasters I've been on a lot. So.
And you've been on you've been on probably one of the best coasters in the world in Fury. Right. So you may not have a quantity, but you have quality in your coaster count.
Yeah. Well, if you think about that, I was one of the first people to ride Fury because again, Coaster Radio.
Ding.
Kevin and I won that contest to represent Coaster Radio at Media Day for Fury 325. Now, keep in mind my first roller coaster, Thunder Road, which was super tame by comparison, I had just done a few months prior. So now it's 2015, and I'm expected to go ride this 325-foot tall roller coaster. I've never been on anything even remotely close to this big, ever. Like, yes. I'm just now getting into the hobby. I'm just now gotten over my fear of Thunder Road. And now I'm going to represent a roller coaster podcast to ride this freaking beast, which was arguably one of the most anticipated coasters. And I'm sitting there the night before in the hotel room going, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I am freaking out. I was freaking out. It sounds funny now. It seems funny to me now that I was so scared.
Now it's like your favorite coaster.
Oh, it's my favorite coaster of all time. I've done ERTs on this thing and ridden it, 10 times in a row. And I told Olivia, I'll tell Olivia sometimes, I'm like, I wish Fury was sitting right there, right now. I would jump out of the car and I would just get on it. Like I
know
feel
you're
like
making me miss it so bad.
Oh, I love it.
And I guess they never got to go on Copperhead Strike yet. I need to get down there.
Yeah, you need to come down because me and Kevin are going to plan a trip soon, I think, because we're jonesing for it too. But yeah, so. Yeah, the night before and then media day and all the hype and everything, we're doing the interviews and we're doing this and that, and I'm like, I've got to ride this thing. We got to ride this thing. It's ERT. I got to ride it. And so I think that was my scariest roller coaster moment, was getting strapped in and going up that lift hill, not knowing what in the world to expect. I'd never been on anything this big, never been on anything this fast. I was terrified when we got to the top of that thing. And of course, I absolutely loved it. And as soon as we got off, we got right back on, and I have not stopped riding it since. So that was a very brief moment of terror. And that's like you said, Brian, once you get into the hobby and you get on multiple roller coasters, it's hard to find something that actually scares you anymore, because you just become accustomed to it. So
now you're just looking for the biggest and fastest and craziest. Like, you want to outdo yourself every time. The fear doesn't even come into play anymore.
Yeah, because most of the fear, let's face it, most of the fear of roller coasters is in your mind. It's the anticipation before you get on the ride. It's not the actual ride itself. And when you've been on as many coasters as we have, the anticipation's gone. I mean, that part of the fear's gone.
Yeah, I mean, and once you're up on you're right. Like, so Fury, right? 300 plus foot drop, right? So add another 100 feet. What's that? It doesn't matter anymore.
It doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter once you get to that scale. No.
Yeah, you're just, it's like, doesn't matter. Like, there's not like any elements that right now are going to, I think the only thing that like would scare me is if the roller coaster was like in one of these things where it was like, you weren't strapped in and you were required to hold on or something. It was like 300 feet. That may be level of scare, but that's about it.
The only one that I think could possibly scare me would be X2.
And that's funny because that's not even that scary. It's just like, because it's so like, you don't go that high really or anything. I mean,
I think it's just because I've never been on one that has that element to it. So that's the only one I can think of that might be, but like you said, it may not be once I actually rode it.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I think actually there at Magic Mountain, I still think I would probably think Tatsu would freak you out a little more once you actually see the way it's laid out, the way you're like, between like, being suspended on like, in that flying position and like being over the terrain that like is missing, it's
Wow, that's a good question though. I always love coaster talk.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, David always like hits us with good questions. I know Cody sent one. We have it in there. I do a random range, so it's like it's in there. It's just when it comes up, it comes up. I just do a random one. That way we're always not like, it's kind of like we're not handpicking anything.
Yeah. All right, guys. So again, we want to thank so much Mark, Dante, Eric, John, Allison, and Jessica for coming on the show. Really
and Kelly
appreciate it.
for setting it up.
Yes.
PR.
Yeah,
she was so great getting us to screen her and all the information, setting up this amazing interview for us.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. And we're going to be back here next week with another unknown movie. We're just kind of flying by the seat of our pants, but we're getting close to that Summer Slaycation series. I cannot wait for
episode 200.
Yes, episode 200, Summer Slaycation. We're doing the whole Puppet Master series. I am so excited for.
Yeah,
I've been saving my box set just for that series, so that'll be fun.
That'll be fun. I mean, I think though we probably should let people know the other ones are probably going to be short. The other Slaycation things, because that's going to be a doozy, that Puppet Master was. I think it was 12 movies plus then that one we need to like track down the versus toys one.
Oh yeah, there's a lot. That's going to be that's going to be like our Hellraiser one.
That might I was like actually toying with possibly doing that in 3 weeks.
Oh, I think we're going to have to. I think we're going to have to.
Breaking it up into 3 and then doing like a 1 week one for one. I mean, I kind of have some, if you look in our schedule thing, I kind of have a couple of ideas, for some smaller franchises to do. Like, the movie have like 3 in the title, but still Slaycation worthy. So. And
I'm also going to be moving around, closer to, as the summer goes on. So it's going to be, you may see some weirdness in our schedule just because of the move, and I'm going to have my computer boxed up and stuff. So there may be a week off in there somewhere. I don't know yet.
Yeah.
Just depends on how it plays out. I did want to say, I've noticed that this new pop filter is not doing it for me at all.
Oh, you liked it in the beginning though.
I did, but I can tell when I'm editing that it's not doing its job. So I promise when I get to the new house, I'm getting new mic. I'm going back to the. I'm using the Snowball, which is fine. It's not a bad mic. It's just the Yeti is so much better.
I think your dulcet tones kind of like compensate for any lack of technology.
Well,
but your dulcet tones come through.
The plan is to get a proper setup when I get to the new house and get the Yeti back, get the proper pop filter back, so my audio quality should improve once I get settled in. I'm going to have a much nicer desk and everything to lay everything out. So that's in the works. So you'll see that over the summer. Hopefully my dulcet tones will be dulcetier.
Oh my God. I don't know if the world can handle it.
All right, guys, we'll see you back next week. Always make sure to check with your real estate agent and make sure they're not hiding anything from you.
Yeah, because there's actually the Ghostbuster clause, as we found out.
Yeah. All right. See you later, guys.